What do we know about the tragic story of Cain and Abel? According to the Bible, Cain was the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, and Abel was his younger brother. Their narrative, found in Genesis 4 verses 1 to 16, unfolds a profound tale of jealousy, violence, and divine justice. As humanity began to flourish on earth, the story of these two brothers highlights the complexities of human emotions and the consequences of our choices. When God favored Abel's offering over Cain's, a seed of envy was planted, ultimately leading to the shocking act of fratricide. Welcome, dear friends, to another captivating journey through the pages of the Bible on our channel, God's Divine Message. Today, we delve into the harrowing tale of Cain and Abel, a biblical narrative that weaves together themes of human struggles, divine expectations, and the enduring nature of God's grace. If you find inspiration in the timeless stories of faith, morality, and redemption, you're in for a compelling exploration. Before we unravel the depths of this poignant story, make sure to subscribe to our channel, God's Divine Message, to stay connected with the profound wisdom and teachings of the Scriptures. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an engaging episode. Now, let's embark on this enlightening journey together and uncover the shocking truth behind the murder of Abel by Cain. It all began in the Garden of Eden, a place where life thrived in perfect harmony. Adam and Eve, the first of humanity, lived in peace under God's protection. They had everything they needed: food, shelter, and direct communion with the Creator. After they were banished from the garden for disobedience, life changed, but the blessings of family continued. Soon, Eve gave birth to two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain was the firstborn, and Abel followed not long after. They grew up under the same sky, shared the same experiences, and were raised with love. Yet, from early on, their paths seemed different. Cain was a farmer, working the soil, bringing forth the fruit of the land. Abel, on the other hand, was a shepherd, tending to the flocks. Both of them had their own way of contributing, their own gifts. But what they didn't realize was that in their hearts, something was already growing, something that would change everything. Now, offerings to God were part of their lives. Cain would bring produce from the earth, and Abel would offer the best of his flocks. From the outside, both sacrifices might have seemed equal, but there was a difference. When Abel offered his lambs, he did so with pure devotion, a heart full of reverence for God. Cain, however, brought his offerings with less sincerity. His heart was divided, and God, who sees all things, noticed this difference. Cain's offerings didn't bring the same joy to God as Abel's did, and Cain could sense it. Every time he watched Abel's offerings being accepted with favor, something inside him twisted. It wasn't just the rejection that stung, it was seeing his younger brother, the one he thought he should always surpass, standing in the light of approval. What began as a small seed of jealousy grew, slowly but surely, into a deadly poison. God, in His mercy, saw what was happening inside Cain's heart. He reached out to him, warning him, "Cain, be careful. Sin is waiting at your door, ready to control you, but you can master it." You see, God wasn't condemning Cain. He was offering a way out, a chance for Cain to confront what was brewing inside him before it was too late. But Cain didn't listen. He let the seed of jealousy grow unchecked, and soon it consumed him. Jealousy is like a weed that takes root in the heart, slowly choking out everything good. That's what happened to Cain. Every time he saw Abel with his flock, it was like a reminder of his own perceived failure. Why is he favored? Why not me? These thoughts echoed in his mind over and over. Each day, his anger festered. Cain became more withdrawn, distant even from God. What's interesting is that this jealousy didn't start with some big event. It was small, a subtle whisper in Cain's mind. But the more he entertained it, the louder it got. And soon, it became a voice that wouldn't be silenced. He watched Abel go about his work, and in those quiet moments, something dark took over. It wasn't just jealousy anymore. It was bitterness. A bitterness that was slowly warping Cain's soul. You have to understand, jealousy doesn't just make you hate others, it makes you hate yourself. Cain saw in Abel everything he thought he lacked. Abel's acceptance by God felt like a spotlight, highlighting Cain's own shortcomings. But instead of looking inward and addressing his own heart, Cain blamed Abel. He started to think that if Abel weren't around, everything would be better. If Abel was gone, he could finally have God's undivided attention. In his twisted mind, Cain believed that removing Abel would fix everything. The dangerous part was that Cain never spoke these thoughts aloud. He never confronted his brother, never asked for help, never sought God again. Instead, he let his anger simmer in silence until it consumed him completely. And that's the thing about jealousy, it isolates you. Cain began to live in his own world, a world where the only solution to his problem was the unthinkable. By now, the Cain who once worked side by side with Abel was gone. All that was left was a man consumed by rage and resentment. He plotted and planned, knowing full well what he was about to do. But still, there was time to stop it. God had already warned him, had already tried to reach him. But Cain ignored the warning. He believed that his way, the way of violence, was the only way forward. And then came the day when Cain's jealousy reached its boiling point. It was a day like any other. The sun was shining, the fields were ripe, and the sheep were grazing peacefully. Cain invited Abel to go for a walk in the field. There was no hint of what was about to happen. Abel had no reason to suspect his brother. After all, they had grown up together, shared so many memories. What could possibly go wrong? But in Cain's heart, this was the moment he had been waiting for. He led Abel out into the field, away from prying eyes, away from any help. As they walked, Abel talked about the future, about their work, about the goodness of God. And every word Abel spoke only fueled Cain's rage. It was as if everything Abel said was a reminder of what Cain didn't have, what he felt he could never have. Then, without warning, Cain struck. It was quick, brutal, and final. Abel didn't even see it coming. One moment, he was standing beside his brother, and the next, his life was gone. In that instant, the first murder in history took place. A brother betraying a brother, a life taken in cold blood. But here's the thing. As soon as it was over, Cain felt the weight of what he had done. It was as if the world itself grew heavier, the sky darker. He stood over Abel's lifeless body, and in that moment, the reality of his actions hit him like a flood. He had killed his own brother, the one person who had shared his life since birth. And now, nothing would ever be the same. The ground beneath Cain seemed to shake with the blood of his brother crying out for justice. In that moment, Cain knew that what he had done was irreversible. He had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. And as he stood there, I imagine he asked himself, "What have I done?" But it was too late. After the murder, Cain tried to act as though nothing had happened. But deep down he knew, the guilt was unbearable. It wasn't long before God called out to him, "Cain, where is your brother Abel?" Cain, in his defiance, responded, "Am I my brother's keeper?" But God knew. He always knew. And then God said something that Cain would never forget. "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." In that moment, Cain realized that there was no escaping his sin. The earth itself testified against him. The guilt weighed on him like a crushing burden. It was too much to bear. God, in his justice, told Cain that he would be a restless wanderer on the earth, forever marked by his sin. No longer would the ground yield crops for him. No longer would he find peace. Cain pleaded, "My punishment is more than I can bear." He feared that others would kill him for what he had done. But even in Cain's guilt, God showed mercy. He marked Cain so that no one would harm him, allowing him to live, though burdened with the consequences of his actions. Cain's life after that moment was never the same. He became a fugitive, living with the knowledge of what he had done, forever separated from the life he once knew. His story serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and the heavy weight of guilt. Cain's act wasn't just a crime against his brother. It was a crime against himself, his family, and God. And in the end, Cain's punishment wasn't just the mark on his forehead, it was the unshakable burden of living with the knowledge of what he had done. As Cain wandered the earth, the impact of his actions rippled through generations. The once close-knit family was shattered. Adam and Eve, who had nurtured their sons with love and hope, were left to grapple with the devastation of losing Abel and the transformation of Cain. The question echoed in their minds, how could this happen? How could a son betray his brother so brutally? In the quiet of their home, Adam and Eve mourned for Abel, but they also felt a profound sense of loss for Cain. He was no longer the boy they had raised. He had become a stranger, marked by his actions. They were left with the haunting question of what they could have done differently to prevent this tragedy. The legacy of sin doesn't just affect the sinner. It ripples outward, touching everyone in its wake. Abel's absence was felt deeply within the family, a void that could never be filled. The loss of a son is a pain that words cannot describe, and for Adam and Eve, the sorrow was compounded by the reality that one son was gone, while the other was now a fugitive. Cain's new life was one of isolation and despair. Everywhere he went, he was reminded of his crime. He could not escape the memory of his brother's blood on his hands. He wandered the land of Nod, seeking solace but finding only emptiness. The world had turned against him, and in his heart, he knew he was unworthy of love or forgiveness. And then came the question, what kind of future could Cain build? Without Abel, he was left to confront not only his guilt but also the consequences of his actions. He built a city, perhaps in a desperate attempt to create something lasting, but every structure he raised bore the weight of his sin. The echoes of laughter and joy were replaced by whispers of shame and regret. Cain may have sought to establish a legacy, but all he could leave behind was a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity. God, in his infinite wisdom, knew that Cain's story would serve as a warning for generations to come. The consequences of Cain's actions reached far beyond his own life. They painted a picture of the dangers of unchecked emotions and the devastating effects of sin. God reached out to humanity, seeking to teach them through the story of Cain and Abel. "See, my children," God said, "this is what happens when you allow jealousy to take root in your heart. This is what happens when you let anger consume you." Through the ages, the story would be retold, becoming a vital part of humanity's collective conscience. Parents would share it with their children, urging them to embrace love, to reject jealousy, and to cultivate kindness. God's voice echoed through the ages, reminding humanity of the importance of reconciliation and the dangers of harboring ill feelings. It's a divine lesson on the necessity of addressing our emotions before they spiral into actions we can never take back. "Do not let the sun go down on your anger," God warned. This ancient wisdom, birthed from the tragic tale of Cain and Abel, resonates deeply with those who seek to live in peace. As Cain wandered, he encountered other people, and his life became intertwined with theirs. Despite his past, God continued to show mercy. Cain's story wasn't just about punishment. It was also about the potential for redemption. God's grace is often hidden in the shadows of our darkest moments, waiting for us to recognize it. In the land of Nod, Cain started a family. He had sons and daughters, and through them, he built a new life. But the memories of his past loomed large. He often wondered if his children would follow in his footsteps, or if they would choose a different path. Would they inherit his guilt, or would they rise above it? As he looked into the faces of his children, he realized that they deserved better. They deserved a father who could teach them about love, about forgiveness, and about the mercy of God. The journey toward redemption wasn't easy. It required Cain to confront his past, to admit his wrongdoings, and to seek forgiveness, not just from God, but also from himself. Though he couldn't undo the murder of Abel, he could strive to be a better man. He could choose to break the cycle of sin, to teach his children the importance of compassion and kindness. The struggle for redemption became a guiding force in his life. It was a battle he fought daily, knowing that while his past would always be a part of him, it didn't have to define his future. In the midst of his struggles, God called to Cain once more. "Though you have sinned, I am still with you. My love is greater than your mistakes." This divine invitation stirred something deep within Cain. The weight of his guilt began to lighten as he grasped the concept of forgiveness, something he desperately needed to extend to himself. Forgiveness isn't just about letting go of anger, it's about embracing grace. Cain learned that God's forgiveness was not contingent upon his worthiness, but rather a gift offered freely to all who seek it. As he internalized this truth, he found the strength to forgive himself. It was a powerful revelation, a turning point in his journey. In time, Cain began to share his story with others. He spoke of his mistakes, his regrets, and the path to healing. "I was lost, but now I'm found," he would say. His story became a beacon of hope for those who felt trapped by their past, reminding them that no one is beyond redemption. God's grace is always available, ready to heal even the deepest wounds. Generations later, the story of Cain and Abel continued to be shared. The lessons learned from Cain's life echoed through the ages, reminding people of the importance of love, compassion, and accountability. In families around the world, parents spoke to their children about the dangers of jealousy and the beauty of forgiveness. Cain's legacy transformed from one of tragedy to a powerful lesson about the human condition. His life became a testament to the reality that everyone is capable of wrongdoing, but everyone is also capable of redemption. "Let my story be a warning," he would say, "but let it also be a guide to a better way." The circle of life continued, as did the quest for understanding and growth. Communities came together, learning from one another, sharing their struggles, and finding strength in unity. The pain of Cain's actions faded, replaced by a collective desire to uplift one another and to foster a spirit of love and acceptance. In the end, the story of Cain and Abel is not just about murder and jealousy, it's about hope and the possibility of change. It's a narrative that reveals the complexities of the human heart and the transformative power of God's love. The divine promise of redemption was not limited to Cain. It extends to each of us. God calls out to us, inviting us to come as we are, flawed, broken, yet capable of so much good. In our struggles, He reminds us that we are never alone. "I am with you," He whispers, offering strength and guidance. The journey may be challenging, but with God by our side, we can rise above our past and embrace a future filled with hope. As we reflect on this story, let us remember that even in our darkest moments, God's light shines through. No matter the weight of our sins, His grace is greater. We are not defined by our mistakes. We are defined by His love. In that truth, we find the courage to forgive, to heal, and to move forward. The story of Cain and Abel is a powerful reminder of the choices we face every day and the potential for transformation that lies within each of us. As we conclude this gripping exploration of Cain and Abel's story, we are reminded of the profound lessons woven into the fabric of the Bible. This narrative serves as a stark reflection of human emotions, jealousy, anger, and regret, and illustrates the consequences of our choices. Our channel, God's Divine Message, is dedicated to bringing these timeless tales to life, offering insights that resonate across generations and cultures. If you've been moved or inspired by the story of Cain and Abel, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. By doing so, you contribute to our community's growth and help spread the wisdom encapsulated in these ancient teachings. Thank you for being a part of God's divine message. Until next time, may the grace and wisdom of the Scriptures illuminate your path. Subscribe, share, and stay connected for more enriching stories from the pages of the Bible.